Early in the 1950s, Hall of Fame bull rider Willie Thomas was forced to ride a bull for 15 seconds, further risking his safety to tire it out because white officials refused to blow the whistle for the African-American rider at the customary 8-second mark. That was just one of many racial indignities black rodeo riders suffered through, including having to enter and exit through animal chutes and being forbidden from winning many cash prizes, en route to Thomas's countless victories. Thomas, 89, grew up on A.P. George Ranch in the 1930s, and on Saturday, the George Ranch Rodeo spotlighted Thomas and his brother, James, in an effort to honor Texas's oft-overlooked black cowboy legacy. Several hundred congregated for the inaugural event at the George Ranch Historical Park southeast of Richmond for the all-day rodeo. "All these cowboys trailblazed the way for us to be here today," said Deborah Greenwood Sharp, Thomas's niece and rodeo committee chairwoman, wiping tears from her eyes. "The fact that black cowboys kind of get blotted out in history saddens me," she said. "But honoring that legacy here and now is so wonderful. It's a legacy that goes back almost 200 years. In the decade even before the Allen brothers founded Houston, Henry and Nancy Jones settled near the Brazos River in 1824 as part of Stephen F. Austin's original, Old 300. American colonists into the then Mexican territory of Texas. The Jones farm evolved into what is now the George Ranch Historical Park. Although Mexico forbade slavery, there wasn't much enforcement with the early American pioneers in Texas, and the Jones Ranch was no exception. The family owned, at its peak, more than 40 slaves before slavery was outlawed in 1865 after the American Civil War. During and after slavery, more than 90% of the ranch's cowboys were black. More broadly, roughly a quarter of all Texas cowboys were African American. And a lot of black cowboys came from Fort Bend County as freed slaves and their children owned horses. "We have this well of great African-American cowboys that started in this area," said George Ranch Programming Director Crystal Willoughby. As the Jones family's descendants expanded the ranch holdings, the property came to be known as the George Ranch in the 20th century under Albert P. and Mamie George, who started holding annual Juneteenth celebrations to honor the ending of slavery. African Americans Johnny and Josephine Thomas moved there in 1925, working their way up from field workers to the estate's main butler and housekeeper. Their son, Willie, was born in 1930. Willoughby said she enjoyed working with the Thomas family, including several of Thomas's nieces, to help organize the first rodeo. She said it's imperative, albeit difficult, to highlight the often ignored history of slavery in the region, but also the rich cowboy culture. That culture extends outside of George Ranch. The historical park hired Ramon Jackson to provide the bulls and livestock for the rodeo. Jackson is black cowboy royalty himself. His father, Robert, for decades held African-American rodeo events that included whites and Hispanics at the family's property in the Macbeth community just west of Angleton. Those Macbeth rodeos continue today. "Our place was for everyone to come and compete in the early 1960s until now with no racial barriers," Jackson said. "Some of the best came through," Willie Thomas counted among them. And, finally, in 2004 he was inducted into the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame. At the induction ceremony 15 years ago, one white man interrupted to talk to Thomas. He apologized for refusing to blow the whistle when Thomas was riding the bull about 50 years prior. He said he couldn't leave this earth without making peace. "There wasn't a dry eye in the place," said Deborah Greenwood Sharp. Jordan.Bloom@Cron.com, Twitter.com/JadeBloom23